Hey everyone! Alright, today's video is going to be over comparing data. Your objective: I will be able to compare two groups of data using their shapes, centers, and spread. So you can describe data in three ways, and that is by the shape, the center, and the spread. We are going to go into greater detail of each one of these, so let's start with the shape. Alright, so there are three shapes we're going to focus on. Now you should all be familiar with symmetry. So for example, if we have a shape and we split it in half, the left side should mirror the right side, as you see here. So if we have a symmetric graph, the left side and the right side are going to be equal, or they're about equal. So that means that the mean and the median are about equal. Keep in mind that the mean is talking about the average. Now, let's come back here to the top. If a graph is not symmetrical and it is shorter on the left, that is a left skew, and it kind of looks like a long tail on the left. That means that the mean will be less than the median. And for a right skew, it's going to have a long tail on the right. So your graph would look something like this instead. And that means that the mean will be higher than the median. So just keep in mind, whatever side you see the tail on, that is going to be either the left or the right skew. Now the center of the data is referring to the mean or the median value. If your data is symmetric, then you're going to use the mean as the center. But if the data is skewed, you're going to use the median as the center. The spread of the data refers to the range, so that's just the greatest minus the least amount, and that's also known as the variability. If we're talking about a box plot, that might also include the interquartile range. Alright, let's go ahead and compare some box plots. So example 1 says, the double box plot shows the costs of MP3 players at two different stores. Compare the shapes, centers, and spreads of the two populations. Write an inference you can make about the two populations. Okay, so we are going to compare shapes, centers, and spreads. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down here. So that we can keep this organized. Okay, so let's look at the shapes. For Electronics World, we can see that there is a long tail on the right, so that would have a right skew. For Bargain Basement, we actually see the same thing. It's got this longer tail on the right. So we could say that both are right skewed. Okay, let's compare the centers now. So since we have box plots, we are going to use the medians as the centers. So Bargain Basement has a center of 60, and Electronics World has a center of 70. So you could say that Electronics World has a center that is 10 more than Bargain Basement. Alright, now for the spreads, remember that's the range of the data. So for Electronics World, it starts at 55 and it ends at 100. So that has a spread of 45. Now for Bargain Basement, it goes from 50 to 80, so it has a spread of 30. So we could say that Electronics World has a greater spread. Alright, now we can make an inference about these two stores. So we can say that Electronics World has a higher median but a wider range. All right, example 2. The double box plot shows the daily participants for 2 zipline companies for 1 month. Compare the shapes, centers, and spreads of the 2 populations. Which company has the greater number of daily participants? All right, so on this one, we're not just making an inference, we're actually trying to answer a specific question. We want to know which one has a greater number of daily participants. So I'm going to organize this again. We're going to compare the shapes, the centers, and the spreads. Okay, so for Treetop Tours, we see that it has that longer tail on the left side. So that's going to have a left skew. Zip Adventures has equal tails on either side, so this is symmetric. So Treetop Tours has a left skew, while Zip Adventures is symmetric. Now let's compare the centers. So Treetop Tours has a center at 70, and Zip Adventures has a center at 50. So we could say that Treetop Tours has a higher center, or median, since that's the median in a box plot. So I'm going to say Treetop Tours has a higher median. Now for the spreads, we're comparing the range of the data. So for Treetop Tours, it goes all the way from 20 to 100, so it has a spread of 80. Zip Adventures goes from 30 to 70, so it has a spread of 40. So Treetop Tours has a greater spread. Okay, so now we want to answer the question, which company has the greater number of daily participants? So what I am going to use to judge this is the median. And since Treetop Tours has a higher median, we are going to infer that Treetop Tours has a greater number of daily participants. So make sure you pause and take a moment to write that down in a complete sentence. Okay, now it is time for you to try, so make sure that you answer your question on Educanon, and make sure that you have written everything down in your notes and bring those with you to class. Have a good day.